interesting. Hey, folks. Like the earrings? My kiddo picked these out for me years ago, but I quite like them. Hope everybody is doing well. I'm not surprised you can't name that tune, Steven. I'll be very curious if anyone could name that tune. It is not good. It is not Good Omens, Pirates. But solid guess. Good guess, but wrong. What's happening in Germany with transphobia? I don't know. I am afraid to find out. All right. So, hang on. Pirates. I heard that you got an A in your summer class. That's fantastic. Hope everything keeps going in a great direction for that. Are we, Rowan? You weren't listening to Jumpgate? You Philistine. So, reminder, while I will try and keep up with the chat as we are live, I make no promises that I am able to get to chats that do not come with a super chat. So I will still try and get up. That's the one thing that guarantees it. Plus, you get the heart of appreciation from me. So, you know, there's that. Charles Martinet is retiring. I know that name, but I don't know why I know that name. New self-proposed self-ID law is supposed to include a government database of all trans people. Oh, fuck off. Fuck all the way off. You know what? Of all countries that should know better than to have a database of minorities, it should be Germany. And I don't like to, hold something from 80 years ago against the people that are currently there, but what the hell? Oh. Good grief. Hey, Meg. It's good to see you. What are the plans when the prisoner is over? I don't want to say because I don't want people to get excited for that as opposed to the return of Jumpgate. We will talk about what will happen after the prisoner if it is still necessary for us to not talk about Babylon 5 after the prisoner. We will see whether or not that is the case. Oh, Mario's voice actor. Right, Charles Martinet, that's right. I could take over that job. It's me, Mario. Wah! Yahoo! Wah! I could do that. What am I eating? Peach. I could eat a peach for hours. German trans and leftist Twitter has been agreeing with you. We do not want good. Would I consider myself an influencer? I mean, I tend to prefer to call myself a content creator instead of an influencer because when most people think influencer, they think people who get a bunch of brand deals and get paid to go and go oh, look where I am now, fam, and that's not what I do. But if you're not gonna accept the term content creator because it's too broad, then yeah, what I do is probably closer to influencer than most other descriptors you could come up with. Peaches, 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 peach. I still haven't seen that. Waluigi is my favorite voice. Solid pick. I don't know him as well because he kind of got introduced after I had started to fade on a lot of stuff. I don't even know if I've played any of the Mario Kart games he's in. I mean, I know he does the wang. I know he's got that. But no, Peter, I am not. I have no interest in Ahsoka. I don't know her as a character. And none of the trailers have done anything for me. I do not intend to watch that. So, do I use DoorDash? Never have. No. Would I consider you an influencer? I don't know. Who are you trying to influence? Have I listened to Flamey Grant? I don't know who or what that is. So let's go with new. Aaron, thank you for the super chat. That was very generous. Thank you. Nothing exciting to say. Hello, just wanted to get a super chatted. Well, it is greatly appreciated. And thank you for the smile on top of it. Much appreciated. No, Harriet Amidala. I still have not seen Del Toro's Pinocchio. It's on the to-do list with a bunch of other stuff. Regular census still exists? Yeah. Like, the things that actually should matter in terms of, like, demographic information are covered by the census. You don't need to... Freaking database of trans people, my God. I'm watching Colombo. He's so good. Oh, Colombo's great. Yeah, propaganda, all that. I know. I still like some cop stuff. I can't help it. But I do like Colombo. Just one more question. I enjoyed your prisoner recap. I'm glad that Jesse and I are alternating on doing the synopses for those. But dang. Trying to keep track of what goes on in that show and convey it anything close, or at least as coherent as the show itself is. I end up with so many pages of notes trying to recap episodes of that show. Which two doctors have the most in common, in my humble opinion? I think 2 and 11 have a lot in common. I will leave it at that. The only thing I've ever seen Peter Falcon is The Princess Bride. I suspect that's true of a lot of people. I like your top. Thank you. I like this top too. When The Prisoner originally ended, viewers were almost rioting over the ending. Do not spoil any of that, neither here nor in comments on Jessie's channel or her Twitter. Somebody left a comment on one of her Twitter. I'm like, you shut your mouth. It's also in a weird Nick Cage movie very late in his career. Weird Nick Cage movie describes 2/3 of Nick Cage's filmography. That's vague. Came out as non-binary. An in-between form of non-binary and M to F. Okay. I am on my journey of discovery of my gender and sexuality. Your channel has been great comfort to me. Oh, thank you, Say Films. And best of luck. It is a journey. And it is okay to change your mind, roll back, go further forward. Ending up in a different place than where you are right now doesn't mean that you're wrong with where you are right now. A journey is a process, so engage with it. And I wish you the best. That's why I love Nick Cage. Nick Cage is interesting. I will give him that. My oldest son and I went to see Renfield here. I still haven't seen Renfield. was called Next. Oh! Okay, I remember seeing trailers for that. Yeah, never saw that one. I hadn't actually seen all that much of Nick Cage's filmography, come to think of it. Pretty smattered experience of the cagedness of it all. Who are the other people in your intro? This always confused me. I have accepted at this point that I will never stop having to answer that, Jamie. I've answered it many a time. I'll answer it again. The three other people who appear in the logo, there is Liz, there is Ryan, there is Paul. These are people who have previously appeared on the channel multiple times. And Paul and Ryan, they haven't been on the channel in a while. Liz doesn't appear on the channel anymore, but these, they are a part of the channel history, and I'm not going to update the logo to remove them. I mean, unless something horrible comes out about any of them, then maybe. But just because they don't appear on the channel anymore doesn't mean I want to cease acknowledging them. And I like the look. I'm assuming you're reviewing them in broadcast order. Yes. Okay. So the next episode of the We Are All Pawns podcast is going to go into this as well. But short version, no matter who says otherwise, there is no agreed upon correct viewing order of The Prisoner. There just isn't. There are many recommended ones. There are multiple airing orders, depending on whether you're looking at the UK airing, the US airing, and various channels that air the episodes in their own order. There is a Blu-ray release order. There is another DVD release order. All these have the episodes in different orders. The only thing that everything agrees on in terms of The Prisoner is what episode is first and what 3 episodes are last. Everything else in the middle keeps getting shuffled. And there are a ton of fan orders, a lot of which are based on contextual clues for how long it's been, except that strikes me as a really faulty way to try and order a show like The Prisoner, given that its surrealist nature means it's perfectly viable that the show could have been messing with continuity and timeline on purpose, and you're trying to undo that. Is that a certainty? No, it's not, but I'm just saying I have no faith in any order. I understand that the broadcast order is probably not the ideal order, but there is no fan consensus on what the ideal order is, unlike, say, Babylon 5, which has the Lurker's Guide, which pretty much all fans agree on. So, that is one of the things that has to be dealt with when talking about The Prisoner. Nick Cage needs to play a detective in a parody of 40s noir films, maybe directed by Ryan Johnson. He was hilarious in Spider-Man Noir. You want to see an interesting take of him as a detective, you should check out Bad Lieutenant, Port of Call, New Orleans. Probably not exactly what you're looking for, but it's a thing. Am I going to watch Poor Things? I'm glad there's trippy sci-fi that I can watch to break from Doctor Who and MCU. I do not know what Poor Things is. So, I don't know. I would have to be educated on what the heck it is. Do I watch any animation critics? Yeah, a few. Cell Specs is the main one that I watch. But, I mean, I watch other critics who talk animation but aren't necessarily exclusive on it. I've gotten turned off to, I'm not going to name names, but I've gotten turned off to some animation channels in the past because they can get really bizarrely judgmental over people's tastes. And any critical channel can, but when animation critics get judgmental, it hits different with me for some reason. I don't know if it's them or me, but excuse me. Not a fan of Nick Cage, but I love that other guy in Renfield. He plays Peter in the... great, I love that show. Oh, yeah, Nicholas Hoult. He's good stuff. kind of. Dharma? Yeah, kinda. Here's the thing. I understand that it is a quote from the show that appears in most episodes as part of the opening sequence. It's kind of a spoiler to draw attention to it. So yeah. I'm late. Forget to take you with me to lunch. Oh, well, what's for lunch, Laura? Before doing The Prisoner, Patrick McGoohan was totally not James Bond secret agent John Drake. John Drake. No, really, in Danger Man. Yeah, I know about that. I've never seen any of those. Supreme Omega is in the chat. Hello there, my friend. On Whedon. One creative criticism I have is that none of his characters are allowed to have surviving stable relationship. Does that also bother you? I mean, yeah. It bothers me more looking at the full scope of his work than in any one show, if that makes sense. I think, so like where it tends to really bother me that nobody has a stable relationship is comic books, but it's not just because there's no stable relationships, it's because in something like Marvel or DC, you are dealing with hundreds of characters and decades worth of material, and you can't manage to have one stable freaking relationship that you don't end up killing one of them in, or one of them turns evil, or you claim it's stable because they never got divorced, but they're actually really toxic. Like, it really bothers me there because those worlds are so expansive and so devoid of a stable relationship. In something like Buffy or Angel or Firefly, I'm a little bit more forgiving with each of those isolated incidents, because with these people at the point in their lives that the show is talking about, the instability makes a bit more sense, or it fits characters, or I'm not having to see it over the course of decades and nobody can hold it together. So, his show's topped out at 7 seasons, and I would say that Buffy by the end was kind of pushing it. But I do think that what really irks me is a pattern over an entire career. So when I look at the entirety of Whedon's work, yeah, kind of annoying. Especially considering he wasn't even bad at writing couples. Like, he could do it fine. Whatever. But yeah, no, it's I don't love it, but I don't find it super egregious with him. Joss Whedon reminds me heavily of Rick Berman. Both used to showrun extremely successful and loved shows and were extremely problematic, but I think like Berman, Whedon's work was carried by others. I don't think that's a fair comparison, because Rick Berman didn't even want to do Star Trek. Like, he really didn't. To him, it was a job. It was a job that he ran the whole thing. He didn't have a passion for the work. He didn't have a passion for the characters. Rick Berman flat out didn't care. Whatever you want to say about Joss Whedon, and there's plenty to say, and I've said most of it, the man did care. You can say that his work was carried by others, by the actors, by other writers, etc. And they certainly contributed, and it's a lot easier to focus in on their contributions now that we don't really want to praise Whedon. But those shows wouldn't exist at all without him. Star Trek would have existed without Berman. It didn't need him to exist. It could have been somebody else. So I don't feel comfortable with that comparison, just because of the nature of their necessity of the thing even existing at all, if that makes sense. Night, everyone from the UK. Have a good evening. Be seeing you. Let's see. My anxiety's been bad today. I told someone I support on Patreon, YouTuber he likes might have made some pro-great replacement comments. He said, your interpretation is beyond bad faith. I mean, that's a hard thing to hear. Obviously, without knowing either the person who you talk to nor the YouTuber you refer to, I am not in a position to offer you reassurance on that because I don't know any of it. And like I say this with no harsh feelings meant behind it. I don't have the time to look into that. But I do understand that bringing forward something like that and thinking that maybe they'll find this helpful and they basically go, no, like that doesn't feel great. I mean, whether you have anxiety or not, that's just not going to feel good. And having anxiety is obviously going to exacerbate something like that. So I hope that you're able to settle your sense of self and your nerves in the near future. What I feel like I can tell you comfortably is the creator you spoke to is probably not going to hold a grudge against you for that. Because I know your anxiety, well, I don't know this, but I know for many people, their anxiety would tell them, this person hates me now. I don't think he hates you. I think he disagreed with you, and he probably will not remember unless specifically reminded in a few days. It's not going to be an active thought in his head. It's not. Been watching I, Claudius, basically Game of Thrones with 70s Doctor Who production value, but it's only one season long and has a good ending. I have heard very good things about I, Claudius over the years. Never have seen it, though. Star Wars, Star Trek, same thing. Yeah, right, Chandler? Like, basically. Excuse me. Star Trek would have been better with someone else than Berman. Well, definitely a hell of a lot sooner than he was gone from it. And yeah, overall, probably. My nails are pretty. I need to redo most of them. I've got 3 that are completely gone. That one needs to be replaced. That one I should redo. Like, I got to deal with these things. What do you think of philosophy that you should always assume someone is acting in good faith unless proven otherwise? I think that is dangerously naive. The problem is, I understand the thought and the mentality behind an operating philosophy like that is assume everyone is acting in good faith unless you can prove otherwise. The thing is, you're not going to be able to vet everyone you disagree with. Like, you're not. You are not going to have the time, the spoons, the energy, or possibly even the means to go through their social media posts, look at the things that they've said outside of where they are trying to engage you in a conversation or debate, and confirm to your own satisfaction, oh, they aren't just doing this to twist things. Nobody has the time to do that, and it's not realistic to expect them to. My standard rule, and I understand that this is not super helpful as a guideline, but for me, I just trust my gut at this point. And all I really have to back that up is having done this for over a decade. And having, and the Vera channel for even longer than that. So even before I came out on this channel, I had the Vera channel out there. I have been dealing with people approaching me in good faith and in bad. And while I cannot guarantee a 100% accuracy rating, I feel really comfortable in my ability to tell, or at least be pretty confident as to whether someone is engaging in good faith or bad faith. And if I'm not sure, I don't engage. If it's bad faith, I will block them so I never have to deal with them again because I do not owe you my time and attention. If it is good faith and I have the spoons for it, I will try my best to engage. If I'm unsure, I'll probably leave it. But I'll tell you what, I've learned that 9 times out of 10, folks who put something on I don't know about that, if I leave them and don't ban them off from commenting on the channel or something like that, give it a month or two, they'll circle back around and say something that is very clearly bad faith. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, the mask slipped. Because going in and always assuming, oh, you say that in good faith. They assume, so, okay. Left versus right debate tactics 101, real quick. They want us to assume they mean what they say. Therefore, they frequently don't. They often, particularly the troll types on the right, will deliberately construct bad, misleading, inaccurate, and completely wild arguments because they are counting on us to treat them as if they are serious. And if you treat every question as if it is good faith, in some ways, you are validating it as a valid question. And the worst possible questions that could conceivably be asked of you aren't just bad faith in terms of the answer that they're trying to coax out of you and the argument they're trying to start. Some questions that come to you are bad faith to the degree that you should not even be validating the question being asked because the question itself is harmful. And I know some people will balk at that, at the idea of, well, if people are just asking questions, some questions are not okay to ask. It is not up for debate. Was Hitler right? And if someone proposes that to you and offers it as a good faith debate, run. Because even if they mean that question in good faith, in the very slim chance that they mean that question in good faith, to validate that as a question even worth having a conversation about is inherently destructive. Now, that is obviously probably the most extreme example I can come up with off the top of my head. It is often not that extreme and that clear cut. But while I do not think we should always assume bad faith because that makes us overly confrontational and it risks pushing away people who might be persuaded to our side, I do not think it is helpful to assume everything is in good faith. What you can do on occasion, because I have found this sometimes myself, every now and then something will be asked, likely in bad faith, but even though the person asking it in bad faith, it might still be a question that could be asked in good faith, and maybe it's worth addressing, even if you deal with it separate from the person who asked. I've had multiple videos I've done on the Vera channel along those lines, like answering the question, why would somebody transition if they don't have dysphoria? Pretty much every instance that occurred on my channel before I did a video answering that, those people asking were not asking in good faith. They were asking as a, I dare you to change my mind kind of thing, and I did not engage with them. But I also know that there is enough lack of information or lack of direct experience with trans people and with dysphoria that there are people who are going to ask that same question in good faith. So I did address that question as a good faith question, even though I never engaged with those people because I knew they specifically were not approaching in good faith. That turned into a bit of a thing. So, do I watch drama channel? You know I hate that stuff, Ms. Wicked Wolf. You know I hate that stuff. No, I do not. Or like sometimes just asking questions is not just asking questions. I mean, if the way that they justify questions that people are like, what are you on about? They're like, I'm just asking questions. Then they're not just asking questions. The questions they're choosing to ask are pushing a position. But anyways, yes, thank you for the reminder, Carolyn. I'm going to pop over to the Discord. Reminder, the Council of Geeks Discord is a Patreon exclusive perk. $2 a month gets you access to the Discord. And in that Discord is a channel where you can ask up to 3 questions, and it is guaranteed that I will address them without you having to do the super chat in here. But let me deal with those, and I will be right back. Let's see what we got. Tangent from The Prisoner, which stars Patrick McGowan, who is also in Scanners. Do you have a favorite David Cronenberg movie? The thing is, Cronenberg movies are often ones that I admire, but almost never want to rewatch. Favorite Cronenberg movie? Probably Naked Lunch. Just for weird factor. Have you watched any of The Avengers, the UK 60s show, Honor Blackman, Diana Rigg, etc.? If so, what are your thoughts? I have only ever seen clips. It seems fun, but no, I've never seen a full episode. Root beer or ginger beer? Neither. Don't like either of them. Don't like sodas. So. Though there is ginger in this. Anyway, moving along. Thought experiment. Oh boy. You're the manager slash senior partner slash head poobah of a unique platform for content creators. Who are your top three? Oh, I'm not gonna. All respect to the question around that one, I am not gonna answer that because I would sit here with my brain cycling for half an hour and I still wouldn't be satisfied with my answers. So I am going to respectfully decline that question. Cake or death? Cake, please. Very well. Give him cake. Gonna run out of cake at this rate. When one has an idea for a short fan fiction story, which is better, a rough outline or a detailed list, and how much research should one do to quote unquote fool the audience? I do not engage enough with fan fiction to be able to answer this question. Like, I am a fiction writer. I have never been a fan fiction writer, and I have never really engaged with fan fiction. So, how much research should be done or how detailed things should be, I don't know. I'm not a part of that world. In my mind, like, I briefly engaged in like a little fan fiction, like just reading, like back in college, like for, I don't know, a week. But I quickly got turned off whenever I came across something and I was like, but that's wrong. So, like, I don't sit well with canon contradictions, but there are entire fan fictions that are 100% based around the ways in which they mess with canon. So, again, I just don't know that environment. I don't know. I'm not a good person to ask. There's a footballer in the UK who was almost prosecuted with sexual assault, but pressured his girlfriend into dropping the charges. Ugh. Manchester United only just caved to the pressure not to let him back on the team after holding him in paid suspension for ages. Since 1994, every year, EA has released a football/soccer game called FIFA. I am familiar. And in the 2022 iteration, they opted to remove this guy as a playable character because of the accusations. If they'd not done that, do you think that would have been a reason to boycott the game series or even EA in general? I don't know if that would have been. You should be boycotting EA. They are an absolutely atrocious company, and the FIFA franchise in particular has some of the worst and most predatory monetization in the entire video game sphere. There are people who have spent thousands of dollars unwittingly on that game. A lot of people blame Overwatch for the popularization of the loot box, and maybe it did, but FIFA had been doing it long before, doing it harder, doing it worse, and doing it more damaging. There are not sufficient guardrails in place. Most of those games are rated okay for children to play, despite the fact that there are gambling mechanics in it, and the EA puts the onus on parents to disable that. It is on by default. EA is not a good company. FIFA is not a good organization. You should not be buying those games anyway, regardless. That said, I understand some people are very committed and dedicated and are very into the fan environment in which this exists, or for some people it's the only game that they buy. I'm not trying to shame anybody for that. But if we're going to get on our high horse about EA or FIFA or both, we've got plenty of reasons to boycott both that do not need to involve the rest of this question. Remember when we got talking about American football during the stream the other day and how kids shouldn't play sports like football and boxing that unavoidably result in people getting injured? How do you feel about the fact that we make popular video games based on sports like that and let kids play them? I mean, I know there are games where you can like be an assassin or kill people with swords, but I feel like those couldn't be taken as promoting those things since there's an understanding those things are bad to do in the real world. I think something like Madden could be taken as promoting football. I mean, while you'd be hard-pressed to say something like Assassin's Creed is promoting anything, you could very easily argue that something like Call of Duty is. Something like Call of Duty is promoting the military. So, like, if we want to go down this path, we're going to be looking at a lot of stuff that just gets removed. And as someone who, while I feel the impact of media is important and vital, and I do not think that children should be allowed to play American football, I understand the concern, but I think so long as children are kept safe from the thing while they are children, as much as I am not trying to dismiss the argument that they have basically been funneled through childhood into something that they will then commit themselves to once they reach adulthood and they are legally allowed to make all of their own decisions, and that itself might not be a great thing. I accept that and I acknowledge that, but at the same time, I am not comfortable drawing a line that says adults cannot make their own decisions. Sometimes those decisions are things I would rather they didn't make. And if it is ultimately only hurting themselves, I don't like that, especially if it potentially comes from having been having this idea glorified by movies or just sports on television or by video games. I don't like that, but ultimately their life is theirs, and it's not mine to say what they can and can't do once they are adults. Not that it's my business to say what they can do with their kids, but it is somebody's business to say what they can do when they are kids. So, on a similar topic, there's an episode of a cartoon I used to watch, not naming it because of the strike, where a girl wants to play football, has to sue the school to get on the team, and then all the guys realize she's actually a good player. Do you think the fact we now know how dangerous the sport is kind of ruins a story like that? I mean, to make a slightly silly analogy, it's like trying to do an inspiring episode of a cartoon where a girl proves she's just as good as the guys at showing she can smoke and drink just as much as them. I don't think that's a fair comparison, because smoking and drinking, smoking especially, there is almost no upside to it. It is a strictly destructive thing. While I take great issue with American football and the physical harm that is involved with it, there is camaraderie, there is friendship that is formed, there is sportsmanship. There are positive things to take out of it. So I don't think that comparison is a fair one to make. Do I think knowing how dangerous the sport is sours it a little bit? Yeah, potentially. Just like just like my current understanding of the nature of the police at this point in my life kind of sours most cop movies for me. But that doesn't mean I don't want there to ever be cop movies again. Like, the world is complicated. It is never so straightforward as X thing encourages bad behavior, get rid of X thing. It's going to be more nuanced than that, because it has to be. Because if we start treating it as black and white as that, well, that puts us in the same mindset of the people who say drag queens are bad, ban drag queens, queer people are bad, ban queer people. I have my very strong opinions as to why American football is bad for children to play, and I don't think they should be allowed to play it, but I don't think that that means, much like with, honestly, here's a weird comparison, sex education, I don't think hiding it from them or overly demonizing it is helpful. I think shielding them from all media that shows football in a glorious vein is not going to be a good thing. All you do is make it taboo and enticing that way. So, like, it's complicated. I am personally of the opinion children should not be playing this sport. Most Americans don't agree, but I don't think they need to be shielded from the sport existing or from growing to like it. If you don't review the 60th Doctor Who specials as they air on the strikes, are you planning to review them after the strike has ended? So I'm not going to fully answer this question, because I've actually got a video coming out tomorrow that's going to answer that pretty directly, but stay tuned, come back tomorrow, that'll be answered. Series 1 is Series 1 now tainted for you due to the number of people from that series that have sex offense allegations made against them? Do you ever plan on rewatching it? It is a little bit, unfortunately. Those specific characters definitely are. It hasn't tainted the show overall, because thankfully, nothing came out about either, say, Eccleston or Billy Piper. So, you know, if either of them had those kind of allegations put against them, then yeah, I probably couldn't watch Series 1 anymore. They haven't, and while it is at times uncomfortable for me to watch certain bits, certain scenes, especially given that both of the people who had those accusations played characters who I actively really liked, no, I don't think it'll stop me from rewatching it in those cases. It's like it's what I will chalk up to as just the ugh factor, because sometimes, regardless of whether someone actually was convicted, how much evidence there was, how much there wasn't, you're just going to have your own personal level of ugh, where regardless of anything else, it just feels wrong. So those two haven't exceeded my ugh factor, even though I have that a little bit. So, like, I remember a couple weeks back, somebody asked about Kevin Spacey. I'm like, regardless of what happens to him in court and whether or not he's acquitted of stuff, just seeing his face, ugh, I don't want to. And that's just comfort. That has nothing to do with like a objective judgment of reality. That's just like, no, personal comfort. Ugh, don't like it. In your opinion, what has been the longest run of good episodes in Doctor Who? For me, it's either the last 6 episodes of series 3 or the first 6 episodes of series 10. Oh, geez, I would have to pull up a list. I would probably say that I would probably agree with you on that first 6 episodes of series 10. But I'm not married to that because I'm not gonna take the time to look up the full episode list because that would eat up 5 minutes at least. Have you ever played the card game Flux? There's a Doctor Who version. I played it once 6 years ago, maybe 5-6 years ago. I remember liking it. I don't remember how it's played. Opinion on pumpkin chocolate chip cookies. Really good. They're really good. My kid's mother makes a pumpkin chocolate chip cookie. She uses like these big ass chunks of chocolate, and she actually adds like pumpkin pie mix into the cookie dough, and they're soft and they're fluffy. It's almost like a little pumpkin chocolate cake. Oh, it's so good. Oh. If this is against your current rule about movie talk, please don't feel pressured to answer. Opinion on James Cameron's Avatar movie, the first one. Enjoyed it when I saw it the first time. Have never rewatched it. There we go. And that is the Discord. And I'm back. I'm back, baby. Trading card games and their booster packs. Gambling or no? No. One could argue it is gambling adjacent. But my gut instinct on that is no. I'm not prepared to defend that view in court. Dr. Lunar, thank you very much for the super chat. Like the avatar. That's very cute. Ever heard of Armored Combat League? It's a sport that uses knight armor, blunt weapons, and with team and solo tournaments, which is based on knight tournaments and medieval warfare. I have heard of things like that. I have not heard of that in specific. Like, there's a local group here in Vermont, the name of which I cannot recall. It's something in, I think it's Gaelic. I think. So I cannot remember what it is called. So like, I'm aware of groups that do that. I'm not familiar with that one in specific. I'm assuming that's probably one of the larger ones. How much should I judge someone who still enjoys a canceled actor? Unless they are actively defending that person and making an argument why you should also be okay with that actor, you shouldn't. Probably. Like, here's the thing. As I said, everyone's got their factor. And when you have a piece of media that you deeply love, that love might run deeper than the does. So I don't think that makes you a fundamentally bad or flawed person to continue to like the work of that actor or something in which that actor appears. Where I will start judging somebody is if and when they start attacking the victims, defending the actor to basically anyone who will listen, going on about conspiracy, saying that everyone else should forgive them because they have, or coming up with some, nonsense reason why everyone should be agreeing with that. That's where, yes, I will judge the hell out of you. But like continuing to enjoy the art, like, here's the thing. Mildly controversial opinion. While I have very firmly said my feelings on spending money towards the Harry Potter franchise, in terms of people who continue to engage with the books or movies, I'm not mad at them and I don't judge them. I will judge people who defend J.K. Rowling. I will judge the hell out of them. But people who simply continue to enjoy the work, I would rather they didn't, but I get it. I'm not going to judge them for that. So there's your condensed version with example. I need to start saying that more often now. My ugh factor. I've actually been anxious about the idea he hates me now all day. Thank you for alleviating that assumption. It really, really helped. Good. I'm glad that helped. 255 AD. Supreme Omega back again on South Park. When did it start being out of touch with the zeitgeist? Because it was relevant in the 90s and the 2000s, but it seems to age worse than The Simpsons. I mean, the reason it fell out of the zeitgeist was that its initial hook was shock. And shock is a finite resource. You can only push a taboo so many times before everyone's like, yeah, we know that's what you do. I mean, it's a similar tract with Family Guy. When your big appeal is like, oh, I can't believe they did that. Well, eventually, like, even if you haven't seen everything they might ever do, you're no longer surprised by where they're willing to go. So that was part of it. I think also there's just been a cultural shift. I think in the late 90s, early 2000s, the general attitude of all sides suck, everybody's terrible, let's laugh at everyone. I think that was a very zeitgeisty approach to life for a lot of folks, especially around my age, to be blunt about it. But I think as years have gone on, you know what? I will steal an observation from Yossi Croshaw. I forget his exact words, but basically it amounts to this. There was definitely a time where being aloof or facetious worked as a, standard go-to way to be, and that like acting like everything was dumb or not worth taking seriously or not worth getting invested in, connected with people because that's kind of how the world seemed for a while. But we are now in a period where we've learned what happens to the world when people stop giving a crap and don't actually take positions on anything. And what happens is the world falls into the hands of people who do still take positions on things and do still give a crap. And it turned out that they were monsters. So I think the kind of libertarian nihilism that underscores South Park overall has just fallen out of favor, just as a general outlook. Do people actually like pumpkins? I heard people only pretend to like them for Halloween. Well, you don't just eat pumpkin innards, Robin, but pumpkin is a solid flavor if you know what to do with it. With regards to my Buffy Angel watch through, I'm at the return of Drusilla. Drew. I like Drew. Drew's good stuff. Let's see. Is that a thing content creators have to deal with? This commenter thinks I hate them now, but I actually don't really care. Yeah, kind of. I've definitely had some commenters who have made it very clear to me that they hold very deep grudges against me for something I said ages ago. And I think they probably partially justify it because they think I have a dislike for them right back. But I'm just wondering, like, why are you holding on to that? Like, a big thing you need to realize about the nature of content creation, all of this is really ephemeral. The streams, most of the videos that we make, if you do the kind of thing that I do, you make it, you push it out, you move on to the next thing. We don't, like, it's probably different for people like Jesse, who spend weeks or months making multi-hour think pieces and video essays. That's not what I do. So speaking for what I do, I can't be super invested in everything I say and every interaction that I have in the comment section or the stream because I've got another one to do tomorrow. So yeah. And that's not to say that like I'm not invested in the streams or I'm not invested in my work. I am, but I can't dwell on it once it's done. I have new stuff to make. That's just the reality of this as a job. Dr. Lunar back with another super chat. Thank you. Thank you. J.K. Rowling gets into a debate with Gene Roddenberry. How do you see this going, and would you pay to see that? No. Well, no. I would pay to see it depending on who the moderator is. But you left out a crucial component in that. What's the topic? Because you can't just say this person debates this person. You need a topic that they're debating over. Like even the presidential campaigns, you can just say, you know, this candidate, you can just say Trump versus Biden, but they're debating over policy. They're debating over the office of the president. They have a subject to debate. So you're missing a third part that's kind of crucial to the question. I don't know, maybe with a good moderator. I wouldn't pay much because I don't put a lot of stock in debates anymore. I'm too old to see the value in them. I apologize, Vera, if this was a question that you've answered before, but is Joss Whedon also on your factor in that you can't rewatch any of his works, either like JK? It's definitely not to the extreme of Rowling. I can tell you that for free. While I have not rewatched any of his stuff, he's also benefited from the fact that I don't have the time to rewatch things anymore for fun. I have too much stuff that I need to do because I've been commissioned to do it, or like it's something I plan to do a video on. I don't do rewatches anymore. I don't have time. But definitely compared to JK, I can make it a very easy metric. The Harry Potter movies are no longer on my movie shelf. My Buffy and Angel box sets still are. Have I rewatched them? No. But I don't feel the need to take them down. J.K. Rowling's stuff and anything associated with her, despite all the work from other people that went into it and the love I once had for it, I don't want it in my house. So while there is a factor for Whedon, it's nowhere close to Rowling. Supreme Omega! On classic Simpsons, even though it's rooted in the 90s, it never seems to fall out of fashion. I wonder if it's because the satire was never mean-spirited. I mean, that could be part of it. I mean, the thing was, The Simpsons was just, for a long time, a very smartly written show. While it wasn't above going for the cheap laugh in the moment, it didn't structure its entire episodes around the cheap laugh. It had things to say. Its satire was broad enough about, you know, this is the quote-unquote American nuclear family. And whether or not that image of a family is still relevant, it's still an image that persists. We all know what the nuclear family is, even if the relevance of that model is fading. We still understand it as a touch point. Therefore, a show that parodies and plays with those notions remains relevant. Whereas something like South Park, which its turnaround time being so short and it could comment on stuff almost as it happened, becomes both a strength and a weakness on a long enough time scale. It becomes a strength because they can address things faster than any other scripted show can, and get on the ground floor and get their thoughts and their takes and their jokes out there. But on the flip side, why would you go back and rewatch it? It's completely dependent on the knowledge of this thing that happened at this point in time. And if you don't have a particular commitment to that specific thing, the episode's not going to hold much for you. Hey, Vera, should I buy Dreams of Fire? I mean, I'd like you to. Link in the description for where you can get that. I hope you'd like it. I hope anybody would like it. I am plugging away at the audio at the audiobook. I am working on it regularly. It is moving forward. Probably still not ready until next year, realistically. Have you ever gotten the appeal of debate? The more time goes on, the more I'm convinced it's useless theatricality and little else. I think that There is value in knowing how to debate in terms of having interactions with people. Not that you should turn every interaction you have with people into a debate. That's not helpful. But understanding the core philosophy behind it, the methodology, the thought process, and what it takes to build a good argument, I think those are all decent things. I think the debate structure within like a high school or a college setting can have value, especially when you have to debate an assigned side. You don't get to just pick the side you already believe in. You have to learn how to defend something which means that you have to understand the thinking behind something that you don't even necessarily agree with. I think that can be a very helpful thing. But the spectacle of debate, the idea of sitting down and having a debate with somebody in order to prove a point to the greater masses, yeah, no, that's freaking useless. It's absolutely useless. I have an entire video on the Vera Wild channel talking about why I do not do debates. In that case, I'm talking specifically about debates about the validity of being trans or gender fluid or any other thing that I identify as. But honestly, at this point, I expand that out completely. In the landscape in which we currently have it, debates have very little value, or at least they do not have value as debates. They basically only serve as a way to broadcast what your views and thoughts are, and then your opponent broadcasts theirs, and audiences who are only passingly familiar with either of you can hear what you are saying. But it's not a debate. It shouldn't be called a debate because it does not resemble in any way, shape, or form an actual debate. What it resembles is just two billboards placed alongside each other, and you pick which one you like the messaging on more. Would HP ever return to your shelf if she died or went destitute and had been several years, or she ever finally grew the F up? Short version, no. I mean, so I'm gonna deal with each of those three scenarios differently because my opinion is slightly different. If she died, no. No, she dies tomorrow, then she dies with hate in her heart, and it has still tainted the books and the people who continue to defend her forever for me. No impact. She does not return to my shelf. If she has gone destitute and it's been several years since then, no, I don't really care how much money she has. I care about the things that she is saying and the harm that is caused by them. Whether or not she goes broke, I might get some schadenfreude out of that, but it wouldn't make me comfortable engaging with her work again. And your final scenario, if she finally grew the F up, presumably meaning she recognized the harm that she's done and apologized for it. Whether or not I could ever engage with Harry Potter again would 100% depend on what steps she took to remedy the damage she did. And to be clear, I don't think she can. In terms of how long she has been doing this and the amount of attention, money, and prestige she has granted to downright hateful, harmful ideas and people, I do not believe, for me, that she can undo that. However, if she did come to recognize the damage she caused, I would still hope to see her attempt to undo it and not just go, I was wrong, and stop tweeting. That is not enough. That would have been enough maybe in July of 2020. It can't be now. So whether or not I would ever engage with her work again would depend on whether or not she took the effort and the time to demonstrate actively that she truly understood what she did wrong and that she spent years, decades, trying to remedy, undo, and correct that. Prove to me that you didn't say, I'm sorry, because you got tired of arguing or because your publicist finally convinced you you need to stop saying these things. Put your money where your mouth is. And even then, I probably wouldn't engage with it again, although I might be more forgiving of other people who do so. Or at least put new money into it. Because as I said, people who have just been holding on to, you know, the stuff they've already paid for, it's your right to do that. Just don't defend her. Just don't do that. Don't do that. Don't. I do need to wrap up soon. Got a few more super chats. Dr. Lunar, if Batman was real, but exactly as he is in the comics, like no killing, gadgets, the works, how much does he affect things in the world? None. I mean, the thing to keep in mind is the world he exists in is not the world we exist in. He exists, excuse me, in a world of the Joker, the Penguin, Clayface. Stupid hiccups. Yes, he exists in a world of stupid hiccups, etc., etc., etc. But that's not the world we live in. And the world we live in, a vigilante beating up random thugs, because that's who he'd be fighting, because we don't have supervillains in this world. So what he'd be beating up is poor people, most of them probably minorities. So he doesn't affect the world in any positive way. Honestly, even if he had a no killing rule, he would be, and this is not me condemning the character or the fiction or the escapism, but if Batman existed in the real world, he would simply be a non-lethal Kyle Rittenhouse. And we don't need that. You know what I did but shouldn't? Have I upped my Patreon pledge $6 to keep him happy with me? In the past, I've spent $3,000 in 6 months to please content creators. I like, no. Look, as someone whose livelihood depends on the support I get from Patreon, do not spend more than you can afford, and don't spend it to try and make us happy. Spend what you are comfortable with and what you feel we are worth, if you can afford it. Because again, he's probably not going to notice if you up your pledge, or if you drop your pledge, or if you stop supporting him altogether. We do not take it personally. I have multiple people who I have to take off and then put back on my end credits on a semi-regular basis because they drop support for whatever reason. They can't afford it this month, or, you know, things are stretched tight, or they haven't been watching my stuff lately. But then they come back again and they're back in the credits again. It's a flow. It comes, it goes. No content creator is so super focused on you in specific that what you are talking about doing is going to tip the scale one way or the other. I'm not saying that he wouldn't be appreciative of it, but it's not going to change his opinion of you because he is not focused on you to that degree. He just isn't. And it's not because he's like, I don't care about you people. It's because he's got other shit to do. He's not hyper-focused on you. He's not. I can guarantee that. Gwen Goodrich. Ooh, first ever super chat. Much appreciated. Message retracted, so I don't know what to say, but thank you all the same. Much appreciated. Is it okay to ask your thoughts on Good Omens Season 2? And if you liked it, not in chat, unfortunately. Again, there'll be a video out tomorrow kind of explaining where things are right now with review content, because there's a little bit of an update on that. But no, I will not be answering such questions in chats or on stream. Speaking of satire, I've had this debate before. Do you think satire is more effective if it's broader or zeroes in on more specific topics? I think it ages better if it's broader. That doesn't necessarily mean it's more effective. It kind of depends on what you're trying to do. Are you trying to satirize like a person, a moment, or are you trying to satirize a mode of thought, a way of being, a more generalized thing? Because there's validity in both, but in terms of aging, it's going to age a lot better if you go broad, generally. Topic, sex and gender, and Star Trek moderator Jesse Gender. That'd be interesting. Let me see. All right, I am gonna wrap this up for the night. Probably my favorite Spike moment so far is when he offers to help Xander rescue Buffy and Riley, only to mention the reason why he usually wouldn't, then just buggers off. I like Spike a lot. Like, there's some issues with Spike in season 6, but neither actor involved in that scene thought it was a good idea or it should have been done. So I take some comfort in that. I think my favorite Spike moment will always be when Buffy says to him, "Tell me what you're doing here, 5 words or less." "Out for a walk, bitch." All right. That's going to wrap it up today. Thanks so much, everybody. I hope that you have a oh, did I miss something? Annalise. Okay, what do we got? Starting college in person today for the first time since COVID. Can you wish me good luck? I can. Best of luck, Annalise. I hope college treats you well and that you have a positive experience with it. Apologies, I don't always grab all the stuff that's going on. It kind of comes and goes. Both the chat and my attention. ADHD. Lovely. Thank you for catching me on that, Carolyn. I appreciate it immensely. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I hope you have a great rest of the day. Stuff coming up. New video tomorrow, this channel. And it will be talking about some changes in my ability to talk about movies. I heard back with some further clarifications from SAG-AFTRA, so I'm going to update on that. Saturday's video, kind of a follow-up to last Saturday's video, because I said I would talk about some of the reasons I think the studios and the executives are going to lose in their fight with the union. So I'll be talking about that on Saturday. Tomorrow, also, Twitch stream. I think I'm going to play Bastion because I feel like some comfort gaming. Thank you very much. And that's what's coming up in the immediate. More Twitch on Friday as well. So that should do us. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. Tomorrow's video is just going to go live. There's not going to be a premiere. There will be a live premiere for Saturday's video. So that should do it. I hope that you all have a great rest of the day. Take care of yourselves. And remember that you are beautiful, you are valid, and you are loved. You are the council. I am just running the meetings. And until next time, this council is adjourned. McCavity!